Hello, you're listening to Otaku Spirit Animecast. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined here with Chris.
Yo.
Today's episode is the bestest anime ever podcast episode. We're going to show you the best of the best because it's been a while. I think we did a podcast a while back talking about what makes a perfect anime or something like that. Mm-hmm. We talked about a couple shows, but it's been a while since we've done a podcast where we just suggest shows. Like these are, I mean, it's going to be more difficult for Chris because I don't think he has a MAL or anything.
No, I have an Anime Planet, but it's been a while since
You don't keep it updated? Do you even score things on there?
No, I don't score.
Yeah, see, there's the problem. Like, I tell people, I don't care to put my scores on MAL or something like that because I don't really care what other people think. But I guess I care because I have an entire YouTube channel devoted to myself and we have a podcast. But no, I always, like, score things there because I'm having to keep track of what is like really, really good because then I can do lists and stuff like that and base it on the actual full spectrum. Yada, 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 yada. What was I getting with this? But yeah, I keep the list, but unfortunately Chris doesn't. So Chris is probably going to bounce off me quite a bit here. But I guess I can ask you, Chris, what's the best anime of all time?
Showa, Genroku, Rakugo, Shinju.
Damn. Did you call that out because it's on the screen? Or do you actually remember that?
Usually people ask me.
I thought it was going to be Sweetness and Lightning. I thought I was gonna, if it was for my daughter, I'd defeat the Demon Lord.
No,
or
actually,
Kiss X Sis.
Usually when people ask me what my favorite anime is, the first one that pops up in my head is Showa Genroku.
But not Kiss X Sis.
No.
Or Orimo.
No.
No, because you never finished that one. If that was your favorite anime of all time and you never finished it,
well, I finished it.
sus.
I finished it when it was best timing for me to finish it.
Which is never.
No,
I mean, you stopped at the point where it wouldn't make you mad.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you know what happens. Mm-hmm. So it's spoiled for you. So you've technically watched it. Since you've gotten spoiled, you've technically watched it.
No, I just have the ending spoiled for me, and I don't care to see that part.
I don't care to see it, yeah. It's like Bunny Drop. I'll never read the manga. Well, no, I technically did read the manga. I didn't read the whole thing, but I read quite a bit of it. I skipped a couple chapters. Not really skipped, but skimmed a couple chapters just to kind of get through it. And, yeah, hated the ending. Not that I hate it, it's just, didn't really want that. Didn't really need that. I'll stick with the anime. But yeah, as per usual, at otakuspirit.com is where you can go for all of our links, social media links, ways to support us, all that kind of good jazz. Or if you're listening to it on podcast, we have youtube.com/otakuspirit, where you can see the video form of this, which we will have at least my browser up on the screen so you can see what we're talking about. But yeah, without further ado, what I want to do is I'm going to go through my Annie list. And obviously, as you can see on the screen, I have starting off the top 10s. And I do want to get through the top 10s. We might get into the 9s. It depends on how long this takes. But I just want to go through and give people suggestions of shows to check out and why they're worth checking out. Some of them, unfortunately, are no longer available. But that's just that's the breaks with what's currently going on with Crunchyroll and used to be Funimation and Aniplex and Sony just not... continuing to push people to piracy apparently is a new thing that we have to do now, is just cut off all these old licenses because we don't want to keep them up.
Yep.
Shoot, when was the last time Bacana was up on something? I know Funimation had it for the longest time because I got the DVDs, unfortunately. Gosh, like so many great titles. I don't even think Mushishi's available. I think maybe some later seasons are. So it's going to suck that some of this stuff you're probably not going to be able to find. That's a sad reality, but... yeah, let's just kick off the top of it. I have, obviously, it's in alphabetical order with the 10, so we're going to be starting off with A Silent Voice, obviously. Now, Silent Voice is actually a very interesting one for me and Chris, because I think you read the manga too?
Yes.
Yeah, we both read the manga before the anime came out. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one of us started watching.
I think I did first.
Reading it?
I heard...
It was on Crunchyroll's manga app. That's where I found it.
Yeah, I had heard about it, and I actually went the other route before it got on Crunchyroll, and
the other route, the website that shall not be,
the Fanlation thing.
Just call it Scanlations. Don't call it fans because fans don't pirate things, Chris.
Yeah, of course.
Gosh.
But no, I had found out about it through another podcast. I thought it was when I looked into it. I really did enjoy it, and I think that the second that it became available, I kind of kicked you into going to read it.
Yeah, it was a great thing because I remember reading it on Crunchyroll, and then I liked it so much. Obviously, I went out and bought the entire manga set. That's how much it just really worked for me. And yeah, I obviously had my, even though I love Kyoto Animation, I had my reservations on the idea of a movie and not a complete series because it seems long enough to be a complete series, but I think they cut out like this one section that wasn't really 100% necessary and ended up being a really incredible movie. Because I think a lot of that has to do with the voice acting, the visuals, Kyoto Animation just going full crazy with it, the emotion, the symbolisms that they managed to put into the movie itself, like the idea of the crossed out faces because he doesn't want to associate with people, going into her, how much that hurt, all the way to the ending that I thought was just, it's just a really incredible movie.
It's one of those that I think it did it justice, but at the same time, I wish they had done more. And this was something that I think that me and Andrew kicked back and forth on when we found out that it was going to be an actual movie instead of a series, that there's just no way that they could cover everything that they did in that show. And
it's like what, 7 volumes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, I do still believe for the time constraint they did enough.
Yeah. I don't really have any complaints with it. Like I said, there was like one. It was like just really one character. One character was like, it sucks because that character I think ends up getting like a bad rap because it doesn't really cover their story.
Yeah.
But again, it doesn't really. It's one of those things where it's like it doesn't take from it if you don't know it's not there, but if you do know it's there, I think there can be a sense of I don't understand why this character's here for those that don't know, but for those that do know are going to go, yeah, it kind of sucks that we don't get their story. But again, it still kind of worked in the end. So, Aria the Animation, agree or disagree?
As one of the tops? 10.
Yeah, way up there, like must watch type of show. This is like one of those ones where when I think about it, I'm like, it's got to be a certain type of person because, like, yeah, let's be kind of. If your friend all they watch is Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer, don't suggest Aria. Now, if they're open to it, they can try it, and I would love them to like it. But it's a chill show.
Yeah, it's a very atmospheric show.
It is the epitome of Iyashikei.
Yeah. I mean, the only one that I would put in the same category is probably Laid Back Camp, which is just, it's so atmospheric. It's very, very difficult to suggest it to anybody who's actually looking for a show that encapsulates anime in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is it's, for those who don't know, it's about like this other planet where it's like covered in water. And so you have these girls that will kind of usher people on boats around locations. And it's like a massive tourist kind of thing. And there's like this whole idea of each one of them having sort of like their own businesses. And there's like a head of it. And you have this new girl that's coming in and she's kind of shuffling people around. And it's a lot to do with, it's very much in the same realm as a lot of those types of like problem per episode, where they run into somebody and they kind of help that person out with their issue or whatever, or somebody in another one of the companies is having a problem, and so in interacting with the main character, they get over their issues. But I've always found it to be just visually beautiful. Like, it is such an immersive world. Like, it's got this great style to it. It feels very much so like, I don't know what's those areas like Italy where they have like Italy. A lot of those types of things. Yeah, it's kind of
it's the ferry boat type thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it, and for the life of me I can't think of the
ferry boat things.
The name of the city. There's a city that is literally that does the canals and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like that whole thing. It's very, very chill. So I really enjoyed it, and I obviously, as you can see on here, I have pretty much every single season up on my list, except for the new ones. I hadn't checked out the new ones that came out, but I was looking forward to those ones too. I really love that, Rip Nozomi Entertainment did like a full-on crazy release of it, and I was just on top of that like real quick. But yeah, I even got the art book because the art they released for the series when it was coming out was just so gorgeous. So Bungo Stray Dogs, this is one that I'm gonna have to go alone on. I don't think I ever got Chris to get on board with that one.
I never got as crazy into it as you did, but I do acknowledge it. It did have a very complex setup for what was. It sounded like Andrew had brought up later that it gets really, really clever. So
yeah, this is the funny thing because I'm not a bookworm. Like I'm not. I mean, I read books, but not like Western books and like old classics and stuff like that by like Rampo and stuff like that. I'm not like a massive nerd when it comes to writers and whatnot. So there is like an element of the series that I think is like that extra that I think so many people probably are just eat up. but that's not me. But I still enjoy it. Like, there is something that you can look into these writers and stuff like that, because every character is like named after a different writer. And so there's like an element of them that is sort of coming across from their writing and whatnot to the characters themselves that have those names. And that's technically going into their abilities and everything like that. But again, I have like very little context, but I still enjoy the show because aside from that, their quirks and that aspect of them, it's the writing itself that's incredible. The way that I always explain to people why it's so great is that it's like a supernatural action series that excels because there's so many characters, and I love every one of them. And I want to know what each one of them thinks about every situation. It's a very few times I always point out, like, I can think of, like, My Hero Academia. If I switch to the 50th person that they've introduced, because there's so many characters in My Hero Academia, every big shonen does, Naruto or whatever. If they switch to a random other character, I half the time go, oh, it's the character that has that personality. I don't care what they think about the situation. With Bungo Stray Dogs, every character, I know their story, their backstory. They all have like in-depth characters. They all have their driving forces. Their driving force can change, and with each one of their opinions and their choices, I'm into it. Like, oh wow, they did that. It's that kind of story. I'm just super invested in it. It's gone for 5 seasons now, and they've caught up with the source material. So we're not really sure what's going on with the 6th season because they've already announced it. So it's like, hopefully they know where they're going with it, and it's a good direction because
definitely not any filler.
Definitely, we don't want filler. No, we don't want filler. Please just let it rest if it doesn't have any content. So we spoke about this earlier, Chris. Let's talk about it now. Bunny Drop, Chris. What do you think of Bunny Drop as being a must-watch?
Well, I didn't get the context of. Well, I kind of guess what it is.
You can kind of guess.
I don't have the context that everybody else says that the manga has destroyed it for. And
it's not like Orimo. He doesn't have the context.
I absolutely enjoyed this show. It was an absolute treat to watch. It is just too sweet, and absolutely perfect on as far as the father-daughter dynamic and raising a young daughter in a single father situation, and it actually pulls it off really fantastically. There's just a
what was it? She was his aunt. Because it was the daughter of his grandpa, I think, right?
Yes. I don't know if they actually confirmed that they are blood related, but yes, it does imply that he is definitely related through the grandfather.
Essentially, the grandfather dies, and he had a daughter, and they're like, who's taking this kid? Nobody wants him, and he's like, I'll take care of her. And then it goes that whole thing where he has no clue what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's having to take care of this girl, and it's super sweet. It's an absolute treasure. It's something that it's been so long since I watched it last time that I kind of want to do a rewatch of it because it's been so long, but it was just special. And wasn't this PA Works? I forget who worked on it. Production IG. It looked really good. It had a very soft look to it, and I love the character design. So it's one of those ones where every single time a show comes out where it's about a guy taking care of a young girl, I always think of Bunny Drop. There's like what was that one here recently where the girl he went back home to take over his father's sweet shop or sweets place, and there was that girl there that was constantly working there. Again, that's one of those cases. Is this going to be a Bunny Drop? Sweetness and Lightning. Is this going to be a Bunny Drop? We always go, is this going to be the next Bunny Drop? And they never, unfortunately, ever hit to the levels that Bunny Drops does. That's why Bunny Drop on my list, anyways, is a 10 out of 10, because it's like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it works perfectly, and it just has so much emotion and character moments. And
I mean, I think Sweetness and Lightning did a fantastic job. The other one, I don't think it was really going for the father-daughter dynamic.
Right.
It was going for something slightly different.
Because she had family, and it was like an element there of like reconnecting with that family. And her just kind of pushing herself forward. Her trying to be a grown-up, basically.
Yeah.
Like, she loved his parents so much because they took her in. She wanted to do what he wasn't there to do, which is take over the sweet place.
Yeah.
And so she was working really hard. This is a girl that is not having a childhood, basically. Like, she was so focused on being grown up that she was working at that place and working really hard.
And that was what was interesting for the dynamic between those two. It was
super chill.
I think it was more. I think it more worked in the role model dynamic than it did in the fathering dynamic. It did do it, but it wasn't. I don't think that was what they were going for.
No, and it was funny because I was looking for that the entire time. It's like, no, they have an element where we're totally talking about that show, and we haven't even named the show because we've got the name of it. But they were kind of going for like this whole element of her hard work rubbing off on him to be more serious, and his chillness trying to get her to just be a child. Anyways, like I said, that's
because she started out despising him and ended up kind of just
because he wasn't here for that family.
Yeah,
I'll do it instead. But anyways, Bunny Drop. Yes, Bunny Drop is great. Bunny Drop is great. Clannad, Chris. This is one of the ones that's like, for the longest time, like when I first, my opinion on this has changed. Not my opinion on if I loved it or not, but my opinion on how I present it to people changed over time. Because when I first watched it, this show had everything for me. Like, it had cute girls. All the girls had great personalities and stories to them. It had and this was in the wake of a lot of visual novel adaptations happening where the main character has no personality. This was one where the main character has like a really funny personality. He's always teasing the girls and whatever. And it wrecked me later on. Like, the story itself gets super emotional, and I love it to death. I love the style of it. It's Kyoto animation and everything like that. But I do recognize that when I don't know if when I first watched it, I didn't like the style. Big eyes. You guys can see that's on the YouTube channel that they had not seen Clannad or anything. Big eyes.
Yeah, this is one of the ones that they use for the memes where they joke about
overly sized eyes, and they do the side shot with the X-ray and the eyeballs bigger than the skull. And you wonder how they smush together. Where's the brain? It's one of those ones where, like, whenever we get asked the question, this is a good way to kind of present this. Whenever we get asked a question, what show would you like to be redone? I always point out Clannad. Not because I think it was poorly adapted or poorly done. It's just I kind of wish that I could get Clannad, a newer version, with a new style of Kyoto animation. Shrink down the eyeballs. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that a lot of my love for Clannad was probably enhanced by, let's face it, whether you like it or not, there is a lot of emotion in eyes. And I think that's what they were going for. Plus, it's kind of like it's kind of like the old style of anime when they started getting big with the eyes, took to a modern visual art style. And it's kind of like in the middle area there. Because like old school anime, it was pretty like bombastic, got the 80s style, hair was crazy. They loved the hairstyles. And then at some point they got big eyes. And then it started modernizing. They started shrinking down the eyes. Now we got to the modern style that we have. And this feels like it's in that middle area there.
I think that Clannad, Air, I think that they do deserve remakes.
Canon. Don't forget Canon.
Canon. I think that they all deserve remakes, in all honesty. I think that with where we're at right now, I think that they could honestly do some fantastic readapting, but it's got to be really fantastic storyboarding, has to be fantastic directors involved, because while I think that most people are probably at the point where if you're going to do a visual novel adaptation, you almost want a full adaptation anymore, where they not just have so-and-so's side story.
Yeah, this is obviously Nagisa.
Yeah.
But they do at least tread into each one of them. Mm-hmm. Like, based on my going into the visual novel and going into, I think I went into the dorm mom's place, and I started going into Tomoyo's. This whole idea here is that it feels like, okay, yeah, I remember all this stuff kind of leading into this, but then it cuts off at some point. And that's what the anime did. It kind of went to each character and went, we're going to get all the way edge there, but we're not going to get everything covered. And then at some point, obviously after story, focus on Nagisa.
Yeah.
Nagisa is the one we're going after. And I think it worked out great. Again, compared to so many other visual novel things that I've seen, this worked really great. Like, they did a really good job on it. So would I want it adapted differently? I don't know. But there is an aspect that the the full visual novel is the idea of telling every story to get the good ending. And the good ending is actually, from what I understand, kind of fascinating. And they don't really touch on it too much with the after story. So, but I think it would take way too much. Like, do we do like 100-episode adaptation so that we can cover everything?
I think that it deserves it. I mean,
yeah, it's like this idea of collecting the stars. Yeah, and it all goes to the ending.
Yeah, they hinted at it.
Yeah, it's the whole field with the girl in there kind of thing.
But when they, I think that one is a lot. Most all of them are stories that I think absolutely deserve the full covering all the stories, because each one of the girls has fantastic stories all in their own. And like I said, I do believe that they deserve full adaptations.
But yeah, getting back to my original point, the main reason why I was like pushing the idea that I would love to have this readapted with a newer style is that I've had so many experiences where I try to suggest Clannad, and what's one of the biggest responses that most people have? I don't like the eyes. So there's like this element of like, yeah, it's kind of hard to suggest to people because that's such an odd art style thing there that for some reason a lot of people just can't get over. And I don't mind it. Like I said, I'm so used to it. I watched it. I enjoyed it. But I do acknowledge that is a put off to a lot of people. So that was my main reasons for kind of wanting that. But yeah, it's still like one of my favorite visual novel adaptations. I can't really think of anything that I was anywhere near to it. So, I mean, I enjoyed Planetarian, stuff like that. But still. What else? Death Billiards, Chris. So this would be the OVA they did originally. Was it for Project Miria, something like that? I forget.
I think it was a Mirai.
Mirai, yeah. Anime Mirai. It was like a little film thing they did, and so it's like a really quick one. I'm trying to remember what story that was. Which one was that?
That one was the one...
Obviously, Billiards.
Yeah, that was if I remember right, they ended up being tied into each other somehow. But it was brilliant.
I mean, I will say this and Death Parade.
Yeah, well, I would put both of them together just because I think that they deserve to be kind of packaged together. What the cool thing about this show is the storytelling that is happening while the event is happening. Basically, two people will come in, and basically the bartender is serving them drinks, offers them...
Was it Deckham?
Is it Deckham?
Deckham, yeah, Deckham.
He offers them to play a game for... I don't remember what the reward was that he was offering to them.
It's the same thing. He just says, we're going to play a game. Yeah. And they're like, why are we playing a game? Just going to play a game. Choose a game. Just going to choose a game. And then they're like, well, we're here. We might as well play a game.
The game will at some point kind of reveal to them that
it reveals their true nature.
It does in some way, shape, or form. And then
sometimes there's a pain involved. Sometimes there's just stakes involved, an unknown stakes in some cases, which I usually like those as well.
And these by forcing them, they are actually they reveal their true nature, and then that causes the judgment upon them as to whether or not they're going to go into reincarnation or into the abyss or whatever the hell it is that they go to. For others, it'll be either heaven or hell for us to other Westerners. And it actually works really good. I really love the forcing of the drama beats that kind of force you to question, is this, even though it's one of those morally gray things, is it truly a good thing, or is it truly a bad thing? Like, I think one of them was a mother, and when it came down to it, she really wasn't involved in her family, and she didn't really care, but at the very last second, it's kind of revealed that everything that she was doing really was because she loved them, and she was desperately trying to get back to him.
Yeah, there's a little bit of misdirection.
Yeah.
There's definitely some play of misdirection that I honestly didn't feel cheap, which can easily be cheap on it. But I think that does come with the element of pushing the characters to their limits.
Yes.
Like, they just can't help but kind of show that true side. I will admit, I think Death Billiards was just really perfect. Just, I mean, obviously it's like one episode. Death Parade, I will admit, I do agree with a lot of people. Towards the later part of it wasn't that great. Like when it got to this like bigger story, it was like, just get back to what you were doing. It's kind of one of those cases where you have a great concept here, just stick to that. And then it goes, but we got to do something big and grand. So we're gonna start looking behind the curtain. No, I don't care what's behind the curtain. Get back to here. I did like the other characters, but it was that big grand story that I was like, I mean, it didn't ruin it, but at the same time, I was like, you should just stuck with this. That's where you're working good. Don't make it bigger than it has to be. I don't know if you agree.
I'm mixed on it. I didn't hate it, but at the same time, I do agree that what was good was the actual games. But
I think that's what makes it frustrating. It's like, yeah, maybe I could have been more receptive of the bigger story if it wasn't for the fact that I like this.
Yeah.
And I kind of want you to keep doing this. It worked though. It worked though. It was a lot to do with that other girl that he was working with. She kind of opened the door to a lot of other stuff, but yeah, super good. It was enough that I went out and got was it Funimation that had that? I got that little box set that's literally the elevator doors. For those who know, like when they first come there, they come out on an elevator, and they don't really know why they're there. But yeah, super cool though. That's another one that I would love to eventually one day rewatch. Death Note. I'm gonna get some hate for having Death Note up in here, but let me explain. Let me start with Chris. Death Note.
Fantastic up until
until it's like literally like most everybody's response to Death Note is it's good until. Mm-hmm. The was his name?
Those
Nier?
who know those who know.
Was it in or near?
I think it's near.
I think it's near.
I think his nickname, not her. His nickname, his label was in.
Just like L was L. He was in because you don't want to. They somehow figured out that this guy can kill by writing down names, so they just give aliases. They knew it was coming, so they prepared themselves with nicknames. There is that like thing. I heard somebody talking about this the other day, and I'm like, yeah, technically that is kind of true, but it just worked. It's like one of those shows where like these people know way too much, but it's like that's because they're geniuses. That's the whole idea behind it, and it kind of works. But yeah, I think most everybody has the same agreement. It was really that moment where like he was up in the helicopter and he finally did the switch back because there was this whole thing where he like handed it off and then he finally got it back, and that was like that flip back. After that, it was like it kind of went downhill for me, and it was a lot to do with the L and where he was from, and there's this other guy, and they started doing all that stuff. I always tell people like, I think Death Note, despite that, and that's technically like what that was like half of it. Like it was a big chunk of it. It's 37 episodes. It was a big chunk of it.
I want to say it was like 2/3 of the way in.
At least the core.
In Nier and Mello were not. They were literally like the last arc, and it wasn't
a core.
Yeah,
but what I usually tell people is like, despite that, it's still really really good, and I think it was the OP was banger, just like Death Parade, by the way. The OP was crazy. But no, it was super good. Yes, it's very edgy, but I think it's extremely clever. I still this day want to read the manga and see if the manga maybe does that later part better, or if it's even in there. I want to read the manga at some point, just kind of because I had a desire to rewatch it, but I thought I'd rather just do the manga instead. But I always tell people like, I still think it's incredible, and I think personally the best way to kind of experience a wrap of the story without getting into nearer stuff is was it Mello? Yeah, Mello does sound familiar.
I want to say that it was Nier and Mello.
When you get to that point where those characters are introduced, watch the two movies, the live action movies, because the ending in the live action movies was better. It stopped before it got to that part, and it was actually like a really incredible ending. The Japanese live action, by the way, not the Netflix one. The Japanese live action
what was her name? Was it Mikasa? Was the girl
Mikasa? Misa.
That was it. Yeah, she was. I think that she was absolutely brilliant addition to it, because it was kind of like one of the
People label her as yandere. I'm like, I don't really think that she's manipulated. That's what's great about it. She's not yandere. She is obsessed with him, but she just does whatever he wants. It's not like an aspect of her going out of her way for him. Like, she follows his orders. Like, she's a puppet. And yeah, I think they pulled her off really well.
Yeah, I think that she was absolutely a brilliant addition to the story, because in a lot of ways this show is literally the embodiment of the cat mouse.
Yeah.
And it's by going through all these different types of back and forths, you have just something that's adding a wrench in it for light, and then there's a wrench thrown in for L, and then another.
Yeah, L runs out of cake.
Yeah, he runs out of cake, and so he starts eating the sugar cubes. So by eating the sugar cubes, suddenly there's this brilliance that's involved, and then adding Misa into the mix. This kind of really complicates the things.
I think even the Death Gods. I love the Death Gods with the inclusion there, especially the one that was with Misa.
The Death Gods.
Ryuk was crazy, and
they were, but I don't think that they added enough to the story for me to use them. Not like
this
Misa.
one, yeah, Rem. That was cool, dude.
I agree that Rem was a cool character. I think Ryuk is a cool character, but neither of them are really add all that much. I mean, yes, they're literally the tool that these characters are using.
Well,
don't
I think
get
what
me
was
wrong.
great about it was because Ryuk obviously started it. Like,
Right.
he just wanted to have fun, so he drops the book down there. Like, he's supposed to handle this thing, he just hands it to somebody to see what happens. With Misa, at least it was one of those cases where they sort of was still having to go, like they were being controlled in a way. Like, they couldn't get themselves involved, but they did want to get involved. Like, there was that conflict there, and an absolute hatred, if I remember correctly, towards the later part with L. Like, Misa hated him. Not Misa. Rem hated him. And I thought that whole thing was fascinating, but that's just my opinion. I think it worked. And it wasn't that they weren't a focus, so I do get you there, but I think when they did include them, they were really cool additions. And like I said, that technically plays into the movies, live action Japanese movies. They were really super. They're so good, I went out and got them. And I don't buy live action movies very often. Like, very rarely do I buy live actions. That one, just like I said, it was great. I was like, when the Netflix one came out, I'm like, everybody go watch that instead. Like, that was such a good, and the CGI was good. It was just super shocking, I know, because Japan doesn't usually do great CGI in movies. That one worked. So there you go, Chris. We'll talk about it now. Talk about your Showa, Genroku, Rakugo, Shinju's. Why is it so great, Chris? Why is it your #1 anime of all time? It's boring, Chris.
Yes, it's boring.
Super boring. And it was by Dean. It's like one of the few good Dean shows.
The only Studio Dean movie or show that I will like praise from the.
Let's look at Dean. Shoot, like, this season's not doing well at all. Rig Monster and all this kind of stuff. And then before then, I didn't watch Oku, to be honest. I heard it was good. But, like, this is Dean. They're just not doing too good, and Showa came out of nowhere. So
That's 7 Deadly Sins.
It's the CGI one, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Where, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the CGI one, isn't it? It might be. It might be not a CGI one, so. Anyway, sorry. Why is it your favorite of all time?
Okay. I thought that Shogun Rakugo Shinju was brilliant. Now, when we actually talked about it, I think that I was so hyped up on it that even then I was singing from the rooftops that this is a show that everybody should give a shot. Even now that I have digested it and considered it, and more shows have came out since then, I still go back to, it's such a perfectly compact story. It literally is capturing this man's life from beginning to end. It
Spoilers.
starts,
No, I'm joking.
yeah, it starts out literally implying that it's actually about this other character, and then you suddenly make a realization. I want to say in like the second or third episode that, oh, wait, that wasn't actually the character that we were following. Oh, maybe it's this character, and then suddenly you realize we're not even following that character. We're following a totally different character, and then slowly you finally realize, okay, this is who we're following. This is who the main character is. And I think that they brilliantly did that because in a way it was an introduction to the character, the main character, but it was via other characters and how they perceive him. And I think that
when
was
they
brilliant.
started focusing on Yotaro, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this.
Yeah.
Because like my whole deal was Yakumo and what's his face? What was the other guy? Sokoroku. The two main guys that the story starts out with, those were like, that was the story.
They were gold. Exactly.
And even Konatsu, especially Konatsu. Those three were like the core story. But I think even though it like transitions to start to feel like it's going to follow somebody else, they're still at the core.
Yeah.
Like everything that's happening is because of them. And it ultimately does reveal what happened with them. Again, I fully agree. I think the thing that makes this show so great is that it's an entire lifespan. Like it's an entire life story. And everything that happens with that life story affects itself. It's all about what happened back here, actually showing that. And then at some point something happens, and then you see the aftermath, and then you have some point of reflection, and then eventually it's to the point where it's one of those things where what does well for having somebody really get late in their life is that you have that moment of going, did I do right?
Yeah.
And having those literally like the ghosts of the past kind of coming up to haunt you. Like, did I do something right? Did I do the wrong thing? In the middle of there, which is I think is fantastic, is Rakugo.
Yep.
Rakugo, this is a period of time where Rakugo itself is changing. Entertainment itself in the world is coming over into Japan. It's changing the entertainment industry. And there's like this question at some point, do you keep to traditions or do you make it better?
Yep.
And this was a clash between these two characters. One wanted to evolve it, and one of them wanted to keep the tradition. And what was great about it was they both did it so freaking good.
Yep.
They both did it so freaking good. And then, like I said earlier, with Dean, the way that they adapted this was brilliant. And now I haven't read the source material. I really do want to. I've been wanting to. The Dean took something that I've seen Rakugo performances. Like I was at a hotel one time and they had this Japanese channel, and for some reason they had a Japanese channel, and even though they had the Japanese channel, Rakugo was on it. And I'm watching it and I'm going, I can kind of get a sense of what they're talking about here and there at the time.
Right.
So I was following some of it, but not really much of any of it. But it was just watching them perform it was like, this isn't for me. This is not for me. Maybe if I got the story and I can understand everything they were saying, because obviously with Rakugo, it is them, a single person telling a story. In a lot of cases, it's multiple perspectives, different characters. So they'll turn and go, oh, well, my name's Susie. And then they turn like this and they go, well, my name's Todd. And they'll tell a whole story. And it usually has some sort of comedic thing to it. Sometimes there's a twisted nature to it. There's a mystery to it or something like that. But what was so great is, despite that, because it was just shot on with this person sitting on a stage. That's it. A camera sitting in the audience pointing at a person on a stage. And it was like, this is kind of boring. The way that Dean did it was that they were telling stories upon stories upon stories, because you had the character performing it. They were telling the story of the actual performance. Then you had the body language of the character. You can see them kind of rustle a little bit. Sometimes you'll see them, they'll have like a little bit of a nervous tick to them. They'll be sweating. And the camera, the perspective in the actual adaptation of it is constantly showing all those subtle details. Now, the manga is probably doing that with the panels. You're probably seeing all these perspectives. But the way they pulled that off with the voice acting, my gosh, the voice acting, especially Ishida, which is Iku, yeah. Fantastic. Like, his voicing of that was just way too good. It was just incredible. Like, through and through, the story itself, the characters, the drama behind it, the twists, the later parts of it, getting into the characters, even the next generation that came in the picture was just heartbreaking. It just hands down was like one of the it's easily up there in my top 5 of all time.
One of the other cool things that kind of came out of that was where Andrew was talking about how detailed the Rakugo performances were. One of the other cool things is that while the story was going through, you at some point you'll have this kind of strange realization. I think that they made it flat out obvious at the one of the last performances that were done, that each story that is done during the course of the show is actually almost a reflection point upon the placement of the characters at the moment. So usually you'll have a character that maybe telling that character will be doing a Rakugo performance, and it may seem like something kind of random and off, and it's kind of fun, this story or that story, but in some way they'll kind of have this strange reflection of a moment in time in that particular part of the story. So it'll kind of reflect that. I mean, the easiest one
Definitely
is the last
later
one.
Yeah, for sure.
The last one for sure. But I don't want to do that one because it's spoilery. But the other ones I want to say we're doing that as well. So
yeah, I don't recall that, but I can see that. All right, that's enough gushing to that. From the New World, me and Chris watched this together. We did a full-on podcast review of this one, didn't we?
Yeah, and I seem to remember that we were kind of... I don't remember if I liked it or not.
I loved it. This is one of those ones where, like, I kind of think there's probably an issue with the adaptation because there's some parts of it that feels a little bit off and rushed. But I was super into the show, which is funny because this is one of those ones where I watched it. I got to a certain point, the database. When they ran into the database and things started getting info dumped like mad crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, and I just shut off. And then at some point, I don't know why, but I went back and I tried it again. And I was like, holy crap, I love this. Like, I was completely sold. And my perspective of that info dump, at that time, I was like, give me more. Like, it's so funny. One time I can watch it and go, the info dump. This is so boring. And then another time I can watch it and go, no, please continue. No, don't stop. Keep giving me information. It's super. It's one of those ones where I don't want to really give any details about exactly what's going on in the world, but it's one of those ones where it starts off at this neutral point, and then at some point you start to dive into a backstory, and then it starts to unearth like all this really cool stuff about the world itself, its history, and yes, ultimately getting to what the characters are now and what they're going to do in the future. It's a total mystery type of thing of reveals and what the characters do going forward, knowing about those reveals, because it's like a garden of like Adam and Eve kind of thing. Like they eat the fruit of knowledge, and do they really need that kind of thing? So I was super fascinated by it. It's got a unique style to it, but I do admit that sometimes that style doesn't really work. But I think overall I enjoy it decently visually. But it was all about the story and the characters and the world that I just ate up. I loved it.
It was if you can't tell, this particular one is absolutely all about the world. And this, it was a very, very intense world building show. And that's why I hesitate to say I think I was warm on it, because I do think that there was some really fascinating things up in there as far as world building is concerned. So it's I think that if I remember right, it was really an interesting kind of tidbit of a show.
Yeah, like for example, if you look into information on this one, even if you haven't watched it, you might know like some of the memes that came out of it at the time. Like it had a thirstness to it. Like you had these characters just suddenly, like these two girls just start just getting all over on top of each other. And it's like at some point you find out there's a reason. It's like, that's so cool. There's actually like, it's not just, doing the baiting for no reason. Like it's not, there's the fan service, if you want to call it that, them like kissing on each other and making out has a purpose. Like, there is a reason behind it, and it's not just there to. I'm not gonna complain if it's there just for that sake. I'm not gonna be mad, but for it to have a purpose is actually pretty cool. So, yeah, I was super into that show when I finally watched it. So, what else? Brotherhood, Chris. The greatest anime of all. Is it still greatest anime at all? It may have been dethroned. Let me double check. Fullmetal Alchemist, Brotherhood, probably. Let's see.
It says
my
11th.
anime list.
And it says 11th and 4th of all time.
Nobody cares about any chart, Chris. We're talking about my anime list. The top anime of my anime list for the. Nope, Frieren has still dethroned it. It still hasn't taken over number 1 on Mal yet from Frieren. So it used to be number 1 anime of all time on Mal for the longest time. It was dethroned by Fruits Basket until that was review bombed. But it's still number 2 at least on Mal. But yeah, I think easily one of the ones that when you ask most people what is like the greatest anime of all time, a lot of people can say Fullmetal. Now I do believe that is like a period of time of anime fans. I think if you ask new anime fans that now, most of them aren't going to. Sadly, I hate to say it, a lot of them aren't going to have any clue what Fullmetal Alchemist is. But I think for the most part, even no matter what generation you're in, they have at least to know what it is, even if they haven't watched it. Because I argued at the time, I don't remember why we watched it. I think it was just one of those moments where we were doing like the back and forth choosing shows to watch. Yeah. And so we watched the original one, and then we went into Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, had to retcon that ending of the first adaptation because they anime originaled it because the manga wasn't done yet. Brotherhood finished it for real. I admit that I still think that like the first one is necessary because you get that first part that is kind of just glossed over with the opening of the Fullmetal Brotherhood. But for sure, like the entirety of Brotherhood is what I would argue is perfection. Perfect pacing, really fantastic action scenes, great characters, just a fascinating story itself. All the side characters are super good, except for that Chimera dad. All the characters are really good. But I always argue, but it's not one of my own personal favorites of all time. I acknowledge it's perfect, but it's not a favorite. Because there's an aspect of it that like I watched it, I loved it, but I never want to watch it again. Like I don't care to watch it again.
I think that Fullmetal Alchemist is one of those that gets a boost via its almost because it's there as a almost perfectly sized shonen epic. So it's like you can go, okay, what's the greatest anime of all time? Most people will probably immediately go into a shonen type thing.
Yeah, most people these days will say Jujutsu Kaisen. Most people these days will probably say Jujutsu Kaisen
because it's more digestible.
Yeah.
So it's almost, I think that it's in that perfect lineup.
That's a great point to make, because I like the fact that Fullmetal Alchemist, especially Brotherhood, I think you can say the same with the original one. It's that perfect balance of, it's not just crazy action stuff that you get from a typical shonen. It has so much more in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously because of the writer. She's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I even enjoyed, I think she did Arson Senki, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
But she's an incredible writer.
It's one of those that I think that between the fact that it's got all the shonen vibes, it's got all the fact that it's kind of perfectly encapsulated in this just perfect amount of space. It catches your intrigue. It has the action points. It has the drama points. It has literally everything. And plus, it was sitting there at the top of the list for forever. And so it's like, okay, what's the greatest anime of all time? It's almost accidental that everybody will go, yeah, well, obviously, Fullmetal Alchemist. I mean,
and that's even taking into consideration that a lot of stuff that gets in the high of Mal is because they are sequels, and the people that have stuck with the franchise for a long time are going to always love the sequels. Like Gintama. I acknowledge that Gintama is probably incredible, and I've yet to watch it, but it's a sequel. Attack on Titan. It's a sequel. So obviously it's going to have a lot more push there. The only case that we really had is like Steins Gate and Frieren. Those are like the big ones that kind of doesn't really have much of a sequel to go with. And Hunter x Hunter too, the 2011 one. But yeah, I think it's something to be said that if it's lasted that long as being that incredible series, I kind of wonder how many people are still going back and watching it. Like how many new fans are still going back and watching it. Because I think that's probably partly why... It could be partly why it kept it up there for so long. Mm-hmm. But then it could also been that at some point in the wake of where it was at, which I think around that area of time when it was released, there was some really great like legends. Like Steins Gate, I think, was around there. Yeah, 2011. Steins Gate was around there as well. There was this peak point where there was a bunch of really incredible shows coming out, and it could have just got shot up there and it just stuck because it was so incredible compared to a lot of things that came before 2010. But it's still, like, again, something that kind of stands the test of time.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it in a lot of cases, it's just a conglomeration of a lot of just lightnings just hitting just the right spot.
The lightnings?
Yeah, the lightnings.
Oh, this is one that's like one of those I love suggesting because I know there's a lot of people that just have no clue what this is.
Yeah.
Gatchaman Crowds. And I will say, I want to say that Insight was where it was at. I think I do believe that I liked Insight more than the original, but they're both incredible. But yeah, Gatchaman Crowds and Gatchaman Crowds Insight is a sequel of it. But my gosh, what a weird show. Visually and the story itself and the characters, the music was freaking... The music is still one of those things that it's still stuck in my head. Like the jingle's already in my head right now. I loved Gatchaman Crowds. White?
I was trying to think of the name of the band.
Oh. But anyways,
Stripes, White Stripes.
I came into this with, I knew what Gatchaman was, but didn't care. Like I'm not a Super Sentai type of person. So there was like a part of me that I think when I got into this show, I know the original reason why it piqued my interest was we were doing OP and EDs, and I was like, holy crap, this song's super good.
Well, I think that we kind of dismissed it because of the whole, because it was Gatchaman.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because of the OP that we went, or that I went and watched it, or what it was. I don't remember why I went and looked into it.
I thought I was the one that pushed you into it. I'd have to go back. That's one of those ones where I'm like, I'm not really sure, but I think we've had this conversation where we can't figure out which one of us said the other one has to check it out. And either way, it's one of those ones that when we went to check it out, it was like, I think initially I will admit that like a lot of my uneasiness was around the CGI wasn't that great. But I got over that. But it was like, I liked Hajime, but I didn't like her. And then at some point, I just loved Hajime. It's one of those shows where, like, you think the characters are archetypes.
Didn't we say that she was autistic and that was kind of her thing?
Yeah, she was definitely like just kind of weird in a way.
Yeah,
but it worked
exactly.
And it was one of those things where, like, as you get further and further into it, it feels like characters are archetypes, but then they play a certain like significant role that it all just works. And then there was like the element of like, yeah, they had like a little bit of a political system they were kind of getting into, and social media stuff, and likes and dislikes and aliens and all this other crap that's kind of just constantly going in there. And then what the heck was her name? The villain of the first season. You have to watch Inbound, by the way. I hate the fact that I think it was Sentai that had it. Cats. Cats was super weird, but I loved it. But if you don't watch the Inbound, which is the OVA between the two seasons, you're not going to understand what happens with the cats. I had the mistake of going into the insights and going, why is suddenly Hajime talking to cats? It's like, what happened? I missed something. And somebody's like, you have to watch the OVA. I'm like, what? There's an OVA? Damn it. I gotta go watch the OVA now. But Cats was great. Yeah, it's just like all the characters are super fascinating. It had a great style to it. It had like so many messages within there as well that I think they're political in a way, but they're not like shoving a message down your throat. And I like that about it. Like you could see like a political message in there, but it's not, I didn't at least get like offended by it or feel that it was trying to push a certain agenda. It felt like what we have.
It's taking certain ideas to their logical conclusion, and I think that's
presenting
the point.
it, and you kind of make your own decision. It is yeah, for sure, showing like this is how far we can go. And so it is sort of making a statement, like this is the extremes that we can get to, and this is what happens.
Well, I think that
but not like
the censorship,
it's beating over your face.
The censorship show, the Shimoneta, did kind of the same thing. If you go down this path, this is where we're going. It just takes the idea and takes it to its logical conclusion. And says,
if you have hentai, they're going to bust down your door and arrest you. That's where we're all heading, guys. Censorship leads to that. It was cool, though. I liked it. It was a really fascinating show. Now I want to listen to the OP. Now I really badly want to go listen to the OP. I don't think they list the OPs on here, unless I just haven't figured out where it's at.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was White Stripes.
But, super good, super good. I think I could find the band, but I'm not going to look for it. Let's see. Ghost in the Shell gets... This is an obvious one. I clicked the wrong button. Now I'm going to lose my spot on the list. Gets is an obvious one. I think that's nothing. It's one of those ones where, again, kind of like Fullmetal Alchemist, where I'm like, I kind of wonder how many of the new fans still go back and watch it. Because for the longest time, if anybody spoke, hey, what should I... Ghost in the Shell. Like everybody said, go watch Ghost in the Shell. I'm very excited to see what Science Sato does, because they're making a new Ghost in the Shell. I really do hope that they like hit on that old style, because obviously like the old style has like that old, like, what is this, 70s or 80s style to it, with the crazy, I don't know, pompadour hair going on with the female characters. It's kind of funny. But the movie obviously wasn't like a direct adaptation. Like, it did its own stuff, but it was incredible. Like, it had everything in it. It had the suspense, it had action, it has mystery, it has the whole idea of what makes a soul, and the shell and all that kind of stuff. Is the concept of ghost in the shell, like the soul in the shell. All that stuff was super cool. What does it mean to be a human? It just did it so well, at the same time keeping the pacing, just kept it going and kept it going and kept it going. And some of the animation pieces in that show is still some of the greatest animation set pieces. I still, to this day, every now and then, will go back and watch the whole spider tank inside of the big the building, and she's hiding behind the pillars, and you see the bullets are hitting the concrete slabs, and it's chipping away slowly, surely. It's like, and then she jumps on top of the tank, and then she starts to pry the lid, and her arms are breaking, and you see the flesh rip, and then the wires and everything. It's like, holy crap, dude, that's so much animation. Like,
I think
there's so many cuts in that. It's like there's more cuts in that than most like shonen shows have in a season. That's how much I'm exaggerating it.
I think one of the first because now that when Andrew was describing that one, of course you get images of it. The one that kind of stands out to me was the falling off of the tower, and then the battle through the middle of the street where they were
in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like turns and he shoots the water, and you see the water get shot up in the air, and then suddenly turns and she kicks him in the face. It's just super good. Yeah, super, super good. I loved it. But
no, Ghost in the Shell, I think that there is brilliance in a lot of these the Android cyberpunk type shows. He really does do a lot of it, because Ghost in the Shell in particular, I really wanted to go back and watch Rise and stuff like that. There's a brilliance.
Rise is actually really good too.
There's a lot of brilliance in a lot of that. The questioning of what is human, what is a soul, what is a memory, what is all those things are just different things that they force you to question about that stuff. So yeah, I definitely. Ghost in the Shell is definitely on the top. One of the tops for me.
That new CGI one was good as well. I still haven't watched part 2 though. It ended on a really nasty note. I didn't like the CGI like too much, but it was still super good.
Did you watch the recent adaptation Netflix one?
The CGI one, yeah. I watched part 1.
Was it CGI? I thought it was live action.
The recent one that I watched on Netflix, which was like probably 2 years ago, it was CGI, and that was part 1, and then
no, this is a Hollywood adaptation.
I have it, but that's not Netflix. There's a Ghost in the Shell live action movie that was made recently, but that wasn't Netflix. because I bought the Blu-ray, and Netflix doesn't do Blu-rays. That's how I know that it's not Netflix, is because I have a Blu-ray of it.
The Hollywood, not the Japanese version. Hollywood.
I'm not aware of a live-action Japanese Ghost in the Shell.
Okay.
So,
Then, was it any good?
I haven't watched it.
Okay.
I bought 2 4K Blu-rays when I got that stupid 4K player. I mean, I'm sorry, the last generation of Xbox. I got it just for the Blu-ray player, and I got the Battle Angel and Ghost in the Shell 4Ks, and then I got the Your Name. Anyways, let's talk about easily one of the greatest anime of all time, which
C base.
is that like third base? And A base is kissing, and B base is petting, and C base is could it breathe? Yes, I love programming. C base. I made it. I practiced on a keyboard made out of paper. Anyways, you got me started.
The real deal.
You got me started. He's a real deal. Watch this. Anyways, Golden Boy, easily the most quotable anime of all time, and it's so funny because that's all the dub. So it's like this is one of those rare cases.
This is one of those rare cases that you will ever hear us praise a dub.
Now I will admit, like the English dub, especially for Kentaro Oe, he nailed the goofiness of him. But I will admit that, like, the audio sucks. Like, at least from what I remember, the audio quality and the recording and some of the other characters kind of sucks. But I think he nailed Kentaro Oe. But it is one of those ones where I've yet to go back and actually watch the whole thing in subtitles with the Japanese voicing, just because it worked. It worked so well. And at the time, I was a lot more receptive of English dub, because what was this? 95, yeah. I watched this a long time ago. And it became a classic, and there was a part of it because I was young back there and this was such a edgy show.
It was such an edgy show,
and it was such a raunchy show in a lot of regards. But it
you
worked
thought you were getting away with something by watching something that is just
edgy.
It was just edgy.
We're watching Tenchi Muyo back then. We're watching Full On News and everything. My friends are watching Looney Tunes, and I'm watching. Anyways. It just worked. Like, it was such a fantastic series. Like, the concept of it, I think, is fantastic too, because it's a guy that's just he's called a freeder. He just goes around and he just gets random jobs. And every job he goes to, he's an idiot, he's perverted, and he does a lot of stupid stuff. But in the end, even though he makes a massive mistake and it often affects people around him, he'll do something super incredible and then disappear. And it always, like, ends up swooning everybody around them. Like the pool one, he literally sucks at swimming, and they end up kicking him out because he does something really inappropriate. But and then it cuts forward, and suddenly, oh yeah, he set up all this stuff. Like, we have a training program over here that's working perfect for the kids. He's got this whole thing over here set up. He set up all this stuff. He's incredible. I gotta go find him, and he's gone. And it works every single time. Especially the mob daughter one was like, holy crap, this is kind of rough. The noodle shop girl. Mm-hmm. Even the motorcycle lady, she's looking for something that can excite her more than her motorcycle, and she finally finds it because he studies across a power line and jumps off this bridge and still survives. It's super good. Like, this is one of those ones where I just love going back and just checking clips, and every single time I laugh at it. So it's super. It's one of those ones where I'm super happy I got a DVD of it. I think it's still on Crunchyroll, so. That's a must watch for sure. I love it. Love it. I like the style of it too. It's that old 90s look. It still holds up. This one, Chris isn't going to agree with me. Grave of the Fireflies.
Are you going to agree?
Ira hates this movie, by the way.
No way.
Ira hates it. Yes. Like, I watched a live stream where they were going through all the shows they watched, and they got the Grave of the Fireflies, and I'm like, okay, where's the punchline? They hated it. Like, all the decisions the main character makes, because he's a stupid kid and makes these dumb decisions.
Oh, you hurt me, Ira.
Gosh, I'm like, that's a Grave of the Fireflies, a classic. Like, they showed that in school. Like, when I was in school, they showed Grave of the Fireflies.
I'm sorry.
It was that freaking good.
I'm so sorry. I cannot believe they did that to you.
Yeah, right. Right. Traumatize all the kids by watching Grave of the Fireflies. But no, this is one of those ones where I think it's just an absolute classic. Like this is one of those things that just shows you the horrors of war itself. I think it does a really great job of doing that. Yeah, I think overall it's just one of my favorite Ghibli films. It's not my favorite Ghibli film. Like I still put like Princess Mononoke and Kiki's Delivery Service over it, but and I would even put Spirit Away above it as well. But like just for like a war film, like super, yeah, for sure. Like the only other ones I really like for like war films that kind of gives you a gritty feel of like reality is probably Genro. But other than that, it would be Grave of Fireflies, and probably This Corner of the World was a really good one as well. But Grave of Fireflies is up there for me.
For me, I tend to follow this particular director on the Ghibli side a bit more, and this is easily my favorite Ghibli film. Now, like I said, my joke is, I'm sorry that they tortured you with such a movie in school.
It's a movie you watch once.
Yeah, it's a movie that you only watch once. It is a brutal film, and in some ways,
which I mean comes with the idea of a nuclear bomb is set down next to in your town and everybody is dying.
Yeah,
it comes with that.
And but it is a brilliantly told story. And I think that it's one of those that doesn't shy away from the harshness of it. And that's, I think, in a lot of ways why it's why I say it's a film that you only watch once. And in some ways, I think that it only needs to be watched once. You just kind of know what it's trying to tell you.
No, you watch it once, and then whenever you don't like somebody, you have them watch it with you. Yeah, so you make an excuse. I
would not like that way.
You're like, I won't. As much as I want to have somebody suffer, I am not going to suffer with them. So I'm going to suggest it and hopefully watch it. But yeah, it's super good. I like it. So, is it Yuki break time? Are you snoring, Yuki? Yuki bear. Yuki bear. Yuki, is it snore time?
Come on, baby. Come on.
This is one I honestly I don't think I'm ever going to take this down from my 10 out of 10s area, but I have been reflecting recently that I might finally be able to take this off my at least top 5 anime of all time. For the longest time, this show has been my number 1 anime of all time. So whenever anybody asks me, hey, what's your favorite anime of all time? I always say Hanasaku Iroha. And I think that was always, I always put the stipulation on there, the fine print whenever I suggested it, is that I fully acknowledge it's not a perfect show. It is a very beautiful looking show with great characters. PA Works this is when they really were solidifying themselves on my radar. But I acknowledge that a lot of my love, and the reason why it was my number 1 was because I was going through a very rough time when I first watched it, and I related to the main character so much. Like, I seen this element of loving what you do and choosing, essentially, if you have these 2 paths ahead of you, and one looks like it's technically going to be the one most people go for, you go for the route that you'd be more happy. And I chose that route, and it was a lot to do with watching this show. I thought it was just, it hit me personally at a very tough time. And it's, ever since then, always been at my number 1. And so I can probably finally, being this far away, can probably finally say I'm going to probably drop it off that number 1 point, just to put something else there, like Onimai or something. I'm gonna replace Hanasaku Iroha with Onimai. But I think I'm ready for that.
You made somebody mad there.
Onimai? I just it still doesn't take away from it. That's just me making a point there. I still absolutely love the series. I'm super happy I got the Pony Can releases of it when it was rare, like this little area of time when those things were available, because it's just one of those ones that I will always cherish. And I hate it because I need to unfollow them. I have the Twitter account of Hanasaku Iroha followed, or at least the company behind it. And so every now and then they'll like post like a rebroadcast or something like that. Now we go, oh crap, it's a new season. They're gonna redo it. What is going on? Why is there a tweet about this? I loved it. So Really good stuff. The grandma. The grandma's so
I think
great.
that she made the show for me. I absolutely. While I wouldn't put this on my tops in any way, shape, or form, it is a brilliant show. I think that it was fantastically told. It is a great character study. There's a lot of just fantastic drama beats, and beautiful. One of the most beautiful, PA Works does a fantastic job in general, but this is easily probably one of the best. Very well directed. Hits a lot of marks for sure.
Did I ever tell you one of the reasons why I didn't want to start the show when I first seen it? There was one aspect that I did not like when I first looked at it.
You didn't like the grandma.
I didn't like Ohara's hair. Her like super like poodle fluff hair going on. I didn't like it.
You suck.
I didn't like her hair.
No,
it was too
you suck.
much.
You just
look
suck.
at this.
Yeah, her hair is perfect. Just shut up.
That? Like, look at how poofy her hair is.
No.
This is the anime style over here. So her hair was like
you suck.
poof.
You're fired.
But
I have fired Andrew.
Like I totally like it now.
As a voice bank, I have this capability. I fired Andrew.
It's just a bug. Ignore him. He's bugging out. It's a critical error. Kaguya-sama Love is War. No, I don't want to view the source. I want to open up the tab. Kaguya-sama Love is War. I don't know if I have any of the other seasons up here, but I obviously here have the first season as a 10 out of 10, and I want to say probably no matter what, I think the entire series is a 10 out of 10. I suggest to everybody to watch the entire thing. And what was so great about it, I think we talked about this several times. Like every season that we had a season of it, I always say the same dang thing. This is a show where there's a simple concept, there's a punchline, and it works every single time, and it never gets old. It is the two of them trying to trip the other one up to say I love you, and then they go in kind of a competition. The narrator's narrating over it, which I don't know how the hell you read the manga. Like, the narrator makes it. I can't imagine reading the manga because the narrator is so good. The narrator talks about how incredibly intense this moment is, even though it's just two people talking about, I don't know, a card game. He narrates over it like some kind of intense moment, and then one of them slips up, and then he says, Kaguya wins. That's the joke, and it does it over and over. And granted, you added other characters in there, and you have some goofiness with them as well. But that's the joke, and it's like, after so many seasons, why does this still work? Like, this writer's a genius, and obviously, for those who don't know, this is the mangaka that will eventually go off to make Oshinoko. This guy's an incredible writer. That's kind of why I like the fact that they've moved off to just doing story, because his writing is perfection. So there's kind of a side of it that's like, I'm kind of glad that he's getting away from doing the art as well. That way he can focus on just writing, and he's not having to draw and all this other stuff and unfortunately hurt himself like a lot of mangakas do. Because this is like a shining example that whatever comes from him, I'm assuming it's going to be perfect because he's just so clever. Disagree? Tell everybody how wrong I am, Chris. Try me. He had something
as we go into this moment of battle between my will and Andrew's will, I am going
database.
to.
I need to break him. I need to reformat my bot.
No, I absolutely love this show. It is near perfect comedy gold. I can't think of much of maybe 2 or 3 skits that, while I probably chuckled a little bit, that I didn't enjoy in some way, shape, or form. It's just brilliant.
That was the other one he was doing, Renai Doko. Is that started yet? It's already got 39 chapters? Jeez. It's already over? I thought we legit just talked about this happening, and it's already over with 39 chapters. I gotta go check that out then.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic. I really, really loved it. Like I said, there's not many skits that I didn't find myself at least chuckling at something involved in it. There was a couple of drama beats that they tossed in there just for good measure, but for the most part, it's just comedy gold.
Yeah, I think Yui Shigami's kind of like serious moments towards the later part was probably like the only weakest part, but that's not really saying much.
No.
Everything else is just like super good. So, and I can't wait for more because it's still not over yet. It's still not over yet. All right.
I gotta go and watch the extra stuff that's came out since.
I talked about this earlier. Here it is, Kiki's Delivery Service. Like one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely adore Kiki's Delivery Service. Now, this is one of those movies where a Ghibli movie where I almost feel like it needs another movie. Like there was a side of it that I kind of wanted more, but it is technically a complete story. It's a witch going out on her own, opening up a business, discovering essentially how, yes, there's some people in the world that are kind of nasty. I still hate that granddaughter. I still hate that granddaughter so much. She like works so hard to cook it, then she rushes it out there in the pouring rain, and then she arrives there and she takes it out, and the girl's like, I don't want it. Oh, I hate her so much. But it was a cute little story. I do like this idea of the witch going out, you know, basically discovering the world and working hard and trying to make it in the world, and had a great little story to it. A little bit of discovery there, a witch being in the normal world of humans and whatnot. And I just think it overall was just one of those films that when I watched it, for some reason, it just worked. Like everything about it worked. I thought it was special. So, not that I still have the VHS of that. I still have. It's one of my few VHSs I still have is Kiki Delivery Service. I have Kiki's Delivery Service. I think I have the Pokemon first film. I have that Tenji Moyo, the movie, and one of the OVAs, but yeah, it's great. I think I got the Blu-ray too.
Yeah,
I keep wanting to buy all the Blu-rays of all the Ghibli films as they release it a million times,
right.
but I never do.
No, it's an absolute sweet treat. I did really enjoy it. I'll even the drama beats. This is, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm downplaying it. It's a Ghibli film, so it naturally is going to have some really fantastic art. Has some fantastic animation.
Oh, the animation is gorgeous.
It is. There is no sparing of details. It goes full ham, and it.
Like I remember the scene where she's flying through she like loses control and she flies through the city. No, she'd go into the city for the first time, and there's obviously a bunch of like cars, and she's never seen them before, and so she like goes to this tunnel and whatnot, and she has to come back out of it, and she's just kind of crashing through all these cars and people on the side of the streets, and it's like they animated all this stuff. How did you not hurt yourself animating this big bustling city while she's coming through it? No, this is not the age of CGI cars. It was crazy. Just thinking about, I mean, that goes to like Escaflowne. When we watched Escaflowne for when Funimation did the release, it was like one of those, God, there's so much animation in some of this older stuff. I mean, Evangelion's another prime example. How much is moving on this? You have to sometimes sit there and go, picture that everything that's moving right now, every time something is shifting, a color's changing on your screen, that is somebody moving a frame by frame by frame, and it's just, sometimes it's mind-boggling just how much their effort they're putting in. And yes, it's the sad reality. Then you look at things these days, and it's like, I mean, besides some standouts like Farron or something like that, you're like, yeah, things are a lot more simple now. But let's be honest, this is Ghibli.
Yeah,
it's a movie, it's a film, something that's going to make millions. So they do technically put a lot of effort in their stuff. So crazy stuff. It's crazy stuff. Anyways, I don't know how many Ghiblis we're going to go through. Oh, the Monogatari series. We're at the Monogatari series. We're in the K's, so that's not showing like Monogatari series season 2 or anything like that. So I guess we could talk about the Monogatari series. Which one do we want to bring up? Want to bring up Kizu 1? This is something right now I'm struggling with because we have 1 month. We have 1 month until a new Monogatari series is coming out, and I badly want to rewatch through the entire thing before that comes out. And I know it's not going to happen. I want to so bad before that comes out, and I know it's not going to happen. But yeah, this is easily one of those ones that has to go somewhere in my top 5 of all time. Like the Monogatari series is one that I can't remember. I can't remember what I thought about when I first watched it, because I want to say that it was one of those ones that I watched it and then I stopped, and then I bought the Blu-ray set. And then me and Chris sat down and watched the entire series, and we made podcast reviews of every single one of them.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones I got to check to make sure that they're all up on the podcast. I do want to get those up on the podcast for people. But it was a great journey. I will admit there's a side of me that I think the only thing that holds back the series is that it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. There is so much dialogue, and sometimes it becomes extremely daunting how much dialogue it is there.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones that was a struggle for me and Chris to watch together because sometimes I like to digest all of the subtitles. So if it's moving really quickly, which sometimes it does, I kind of want to go back and verify what they're saying. But it is definitely one of those ones that I kind of wish has a dub. And I know it would be very difficult to do a dub of it because this is one of those ones where I think a lot of people either don't watch it because they can't keep up with it, or they don't watch it because they don't do subtitles. And it is a series, a franchise, and a series that I think everybody should experience because it's just...
Well, one of the biggest problems that I would foresee is that it has a lot of wordplay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just reading the subtitles. But yeah, I mean, visually, they could still have a lot of stuff on the screen.
I don't know that the dub would catch the wordplay properly.
Well, if it's subtitled, then you just read the subtitles. Just like when somebody reads the subtitles.
Subtitling a dub?
Well, when you watch a subtitle, you're reading the subtitles, right?
Correct, but they're doing
they say
wordplays.
The subtitles.
If they dub it,
well,
the wordplay would be lost.
If you're talking about like,
why would you subtitle something that is already translated?
Subtitles. The translation is the subtitles. If you're talking about like whenever they talk about like karage and they have to find another word that it starts with an e or a they.
No, not the game. A lot of when they're doing a lot of their back and forths, they're actually doing a lot of wordplay. I'm surprised you've never.
Well, yeah,
noticed
like
that.
Audibly that you can pick up.
You can hear
sure.
it.
I'm just talking about
Japanese.
I'm just talking about the actual subtitles. It's not like it has to have everything in there. There is a side of me that I believe that if you can at least get the story and whatnot to the people, it's fine. Now, if they're gonna miss the wordplay, they're used to that. That literally happens with every single series.
Every single dub. That's
watchers
kind
are
of
used to that.
Kind of the crap that we've been talking about.
Dub users are used to that, and a lot of them actually don't like that stuff. So it's not, I guess, not a loss for a lot of people. But
I think that's kind of half of the charm of, I guess, in a lot of ways.
It's a fraction of it. There's so much stuff in there.
Depends on how into Japanese anime and actually listening to the Japanese dub you would be. Because if you're, you may be reading the subtitles and not really paying that close of attention to what they're saying, but the more and more you pick it up, you do start to notice some of the rhythm changes when they're actually talking, and you can almost catch when they're actually doing a wordplay back and forth, where they're actually digging into a word, and that's to me half of the charm of what is happening in the Monogatari series.
But my point is, I would argue that most people are just going based on the subtitles, and they don't really care anyways, and that's going to be what most dub users are used to at this point. So that was my point, is that they can just dub the subtitles. It's not like it has to have that in there, because I think there's so much more in the show besides just that, because they don't do wordplays 24/7. There is the characters, there's the story, there's we talked about this extensively, in this idea that Nishioisen, at least with this series, loved to kind of take archetypes and just completely break them. You have the Tsundere archetype and all that kind of stuff, and they're just doing something super weird with it. Each one of these characters he's running into has some sort of thing that's inflicting the person. He has to figure it out, and it's just super interesting. I always love the characters, I love the interactions, and some of the more goofy things that are just so weird. I mean, the toothbrush thing. It's just, there's such these weird moments where it's like, only this show is gonna do this, and just do it in a way that is like twisted but kind of interesting at the same time. Like there's a reason why he's doing the toothbrush thing, and it's like it's kind of funny that it's willing to do this and do it seriously. And then of course at some point Araragi realizing, hey, this is kind of wrong. Like he literally just walks into it, and then at some point goes, hey, this is actually kind of wrong. And the viewer is kind of going either, hell yes, it's wrong, keep going, or they're going, yes, thanks for finally figuring it out. Let's move on now. It's super good, and there's so many great moments at the top of my head that I just can't name them all. So again, I love it so much that I went out and I don't know. I have to admit that I probably watched quite a bit of it before I bought the Blu-rays, because that was an investment. That was a massive investment. But there was a reason why I bought the Blu-rays. It's one of those. It's a classic. It's just through and through. It's a classic. So, and I'm kind of glad that it's coming back. Hopefully I remember what's going on, so when it comes back, I'm not lost. Granted, there's technically kind of a time jump. Not really a time jump, but the time jump was already there before with like Hana. But there's technically a time jump, and it's technically following the other characters, but they do technically have their own stories that they've been building up over time. So hopefully I'm not too lost. We'll see, though. I might be completely lost. Made in Abyss. Made in Abyss. This series, I love it so much. We just got done talking about like messed up moments. And we'll talk about Made in Abyss. But no, I think the initial draw to Made in Abyss, obviously, besides the controversy over the first chapters and the questionable stuff later on, I've always been fascinated by it because, one, yes, I love the art style. I think it's got a very unique art style to it, and the world itself is super, super creative. But it is, like, for me, mostly that dive in the unknown. It's the idea of these characters, and they're going down this abyss, and there's, like, the curse of the abyss itself that affects people. It can transform people and kill people, and there's these artifacts down there that people are trying to pull up, and it's all about her trying to find her mother. And every layer it goes down is just super fascinating to me. It's been the appeal for me from the very beginning, has been the unknown, this really twisted kind of world that this creator has created. It's super raw at times. Like, it doesn't hold back much to the disappointment of Chris and many others. It doesn't hold back how kind of brutal it is at times. And it's so funny because it's got like a children's book style to the characters and stuff like that. And then you'll see like these
that makes
really,
it 10 times worse.
These really unsettling moments where like suddenly, hey, she's infected. I need to chop off her arm. Hey, it's not severing. Darn it. Better hit it again. Like, it gets super wrong. The toilet. But it's super good. Like, I like that stuff. I like how just absolutely unapologetic and raw it is. And yeah, I will still to this day, I hate Bondrewd, but I will say, I always think of her name every time we talk about this. The crazy chick they ran into, Ozen. I thought Ozen's little moment there when they first kind of ran into her at that one place was like one of the most coolest characters that had been like revealed at that time. I'm like, holy crap, I'm just super fascinated by this person. They're so twisted, but at the same time, I kind of want to trust them, but I don't want to trust them because they're kind of creepy. Like, it's just like this massive conflict that comes from just that character. But yeah, I love it. I hate that they caught up with the manga. Another one that's kind of like Bungo Stray Dogs, where they announced something else coming when there's not enough source material, but we'll see. I hope something more comes.
This is a show that I hate admitting that I like, because of its brutality. I don't know how I keep going back to the show. It drives me absolutely
because
crazy.
Nanashi, obviously because Nanashi and Tama.
Yes, because Tama.
Fapta.
It is a visual treat. It is a shining light in the middle of the darkness. It's such a weird.
Remember Fapta?
Yeah, I love her. Fapta. It is
for those that don't know, Misaki Kuno blew her voice out this season, and a lot of people speculate it's because Fapta. She was screaming passionately that entire segment. I'm like, holy crap, girl! Dang, she's pushing it.
It is
great performance.
Yeah, she did. It's a show that really does push boundaries, and I, like I said, I don't know how I keep coming back to it. I know that it's gonna brutalize me every season, and yet it just keeps going, and I do enjoy it in a lot of ways, and I hate it because it's so mean.
So you like You like punishment. You like self-inflicting pain.
I hate it. I hate
Oh
that
gosh,
show.
dude. Please, anime industry. Shaft, you're coming back. Shaft, you're making your comeback. You're coming back, you press the button, you're doing the Madokas, you're doing the Monogatari series, you're bringing back these franchises because it's obvious that it seems like you're hurting or something. I don't know. I'm assuming you're hurting. Press that March Comes In Like a Lion button too, please. Press it. Bring it back. I want more. This is easily like the series where, like, if somebody asked me, like, obviously Monogatari series is definitely one that I want to see come back and continue on, which they're now doing. But March Comes Like a Lion is one of those ones where I think that's... I mean, Noragami's here, which there's a rumor that Noragami's coming back, but I think most everything here has sequels coming. Spice and Wolf's coming back, or is being redone right now. I mean, maybe 86. And we have Ascendance Bookworm coming back. Like, all these have sequels, or I don't really mind if they don't have a sequel. But yeah, March Comes Like a Lion is like, I want, please, this needs a sequel already, because where do I start? Where do I start? It's a case of somebody who has kind of shut themselves off from the world and enclosed themselves into kind of a dark place, slowly kind of being pulled out of that darkness. And it's kind of one of those ones where, like, it's about shogi. He's a shogi player. But it's one of those ones that kind of portrays the shogi, even though I don't care about shogi, and at the time I don't even know what the hell is happening with the shogi. It's not really about the shogi. It's about the characters playing the shogi. Like, I keep talking about in the second season, that whole segment where that guy is literally, he's old, and he's still playing shogi, and all of his friends have stopped playing shogi, and there's a sense of them sort of placing these expectations upon him to kind of carry it on without them, and all that kind of bearing down on him. Like, the weight of all of their expectation is literally weighing him down. And seeing that kind of portrayed as he's playing the game, and he's stuck in his own thought, it was one of the most greatest moments of Shaft that they've ever done. Like, that episode, still to this day, hands down, is one of the most amazing episodes, and how it was portrayed and symbolized that. Oh, so good. But no, all the characters are great. I love the Kawamotos, the other family. They were just precious. It's pretty much like his new family, basically. Them kind of bringing him in and basically giving them warmth, bringing him in there and taking care of him, and how he kind of portrays the idea that sometimes he doesn't like going there because it feels like, you know, coming out from underneath the kotatsu, where you get comfortable and warm, but then when you go back outside, you're freezing.
Makes it 10 times worse.
It makes it worse. It was just fantastic. I mean, I will admit that there was, I think it was in the second season, like when it got to the point where he was doing that whole club that he was getting a part of, and that part was kind of meh for me, but like the rest of it is just perfect, and I want more of it. This is one of those ones where I should probably give up and just finally read the manga.
I don't think, as I went through that, I can't think of any moment that I did not like. I absolutely loved this show through and through. This is easily, by definition, one of the greatest character studies, and I just ate it up all the way through. Especially in when it does kind of
another
hits
Tama
on
character.
Because there's a Tama character.
Chris likes this show.
Yes, that's the only reason I like it, is because Tom is in it.
So okay, so we need to do like the top anime for Chris. Let's just go through her roles, and you'll just say like, yeah, this top anime of all time, top anime of all time. Sorry,
every one of them are top anime of all time. So
except for where was it at? Yeah, except for Fire Hunter. He never watched Fire Hunter.
Well, obviously, it's the greatest anime of all time.
You just haven't got a chance to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
But no, in the when it goes into even like bullying, it does family dynamics. It delves into exodus from family. It delves into kind of
his second family. That stuff was kind of rough.
There's all kinds of just fantastic drama beats, and I think that none of them feel overdone, which is one of the things that me and Andrew have talked about a few times, where I mean, sometimes drama can really easily spill over into melodrama. Me and Andrew have joked about it before, where we're sitting here watching a show.
Somebody.
He must have killed somebody in his past life. I mean, the way that people are talking about this guy, there's easily no way that whatever he did was unforgivable. Obviously, he killed somebody. That's the only thing that we could figure. And then when it finally reveals, okay, he stepped on his shoe. He did what? Okay, that's a bit much hatred for stepping on his shoe. But in a lot of the cases with March Comes In Like a Lion, it's
because they played shogi together when they were 3 years old, and they beat them at shogi, and ever since they have hated their guts and have studied shogi for 20 years for the sake of beating them in a match.
Exactly.
Devoted their life.
Exactly.
Because of that 3-year-old game they played. It's that kind of stupid stuff. It's like, really? Really? You devoted your life to that? Man.
But no, in most cases, most of the drama beats in the show are generally very well thought out. It doesn't feel like it's overplayed. It feels like it's a very natural situation. And like Andrew was talking about, where I love some of the visuals of him going from through the winter storm and finally going into this, like Andrew was talking about, the warm kotatsu of their family, that they just warmly accept him in as just a member of their family. And
there's an element of like the broken supporting the broken in that.
Yeah.
So, because they just have their grandfather. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. Love it. Want more. It's been so long. Yeah, both of those are there. Yes, we have Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. Do we need to talk about Mushoku Tensei? Since we talked about
how we've
death?
talked about it for the last 3 years straight. I think that they've got enough.
Yeah, if you guys understand, yes, Mushoku Tensei is great. It's amazing. Now, I do note that I only have season 1 up here because season 1 was perfect. Besides skipping Edis's perspective chapter. It's great. Evangelion, yeah, that's technically goes without saying. I don't know if we have to get too much detail in here. I was mentioning earlier the idea that there's like just some amazing animation pieces throughout the Evangelion franchise. I know that's kind of an easy, but it doesn't, like, you could say so many people have talked about it. It's talked about death. You can even argue it's overhyped or whatever, or it has too much credit given to it, but it's like, it's still, like, to this day, a classic. It is a classic mecha that just stands the test of time. It's still visually incredible. It's won many awards. It's up there as one of the greatest of all time for many people. Yeah, you can make arguments that there's the whole ending debacle, but it doesn't take away from the show being incredible. This is like one of the first like blue DVDs I ever bought. Like one of my first things I ever bought myself. And there was a reason for it, because it was incredible. Like, everything about it was incredible. The characters are incredible. I'm a Shinji apologist. At the time when everybody said that Shinji was so whiny and getting the mecha, he's so whiny. I was at the same time going, yeah, but have you ever been inside a machine that makes you actually literally believe that your arm is being ripped off every 2 seconds? Yes, Shinji has a reason for being as traumatized as he is. Now, yes, the whole thing with his dad, the daddy issues, like, you can argue this way or that way, but I was a Shinji apologist.
I am not a Shinji apologist. I think that he is an absolute wabag.
Wabag? Wabag? He's a wabag.
But at the same time, I am one of those that actually likes Rei Ayanami as best girl, and so I have
been converted. When I first watched the series, I thought Rei Ayanami was hot. And then the second time I watched it, for some reason, I shifted to Asuka. You know, it was Rei and Misato for me early on. It was Rei and Misato. And then later on, it turned to Misato and Asuka.
I don't do the beer girl, so.
I don't like the beer girl either, but she's hot when she's at work. and she's typically not drunk when she's at work. Typically. She might hide it really well, but she's typically not drunk at work.
She's a complete slob. She's hot in her own way.
Yeah, and
it's okay.
The other part about Ayanami is, like, you do have to acknowledge at some point, story-wise, at least from Shinji's perspective, she's not the choice.
No,
she's not the choice. Stay away from that. I don't know. Some people are fine with it. No judging. Some people are fine with it. If you know, you know, and if you're fine, it's fine.
You know. Exactly.
It's fiction. I ain't gonna judge you. But she does protect. Anyways, Noragami. There is a rumor, Chris, right now that Noragami is coming back, and I'm not going to believe it until I see it.
Right.
But I would flip. I told some people, like, there's this rumor going around. I'm like, I'm not even getting excited. But I will admit that the moment that pops up on my feed that says, I don't know, I would hope that it's probably Bones again. I think it was Bones, right? If it pops up again that Bones or a really good studio is coming back and they're going to do Noragami, the camera turns on immediately, no matter what time it is. Like, if it's midnight and I'm about to go to bed, I'm turning the camera on. I'm going to start flipping. I don't think that I'm actually going to physically flip, like, do a flip, because I'll end up hurting myself. But I'm going to be freaking out because the arc next is so good. I haven't finished it.
Clearly, Andrew has been going to gymnastics classes, so
I'll use CGI.
Well, I'll literally
cut myself out, and I'll just go there. I did a flip. You'll totally believe it. My special effects will be amazing. But no, I love the series. Now I'm of the type that I believe the later arc of the first season was Garbo. What they did is they basically made an anime original so that they can finish off the first season, because when the second season opens up, it just takes off. Like, it's an insane, like, second season is so good. Even if you're not, like, invested with the first season, I always tell people, get to that second season, because the moment that they get into Bishamon, it's incredible. Bishamon's story is incredible. And it doesn't let up. Like, what they get into after the second season ended, I started reading the manga after it. Super good. Loved it to death. And again, I haven't finished it, but I think I know what arc that they would adapt, and I would love to see that adapted, because it is so good. Like, it is gut wrenching. Like, it's gonna punch you in the gut, and I want to see it. I want to see it adapted. And I'm hoping, because they just finished the manga, so my hope is that they are in fact going to adapt more, because what they can get into going forward is great.
To give you guys an idea, because I'm actually kind of giving Andrew a lot of props for this. He has been bugging me to read the manga ever since.
No, I haven't.
Yes.
Well, okay. Never.
You did ask me to.
You lying?
You did ask me to watch.
I think at some point I may have said, "Hey, yeah," but you're saying
you said
endlessly telling me.
I'm trying to give you props for
every now and then
you have not changed. In the last 4 years,
and he's like, "What the hell, Andrew? Is everything okay? It's like 3:00 in the morning." Did you read it yet? No, I'm not going to read Noragami. Stop it.
I was giving you props.
He's at work, and
he's been consistent about this.
His boss comes over.
Years.
Chris, you got a phone call. I'm not sure who it is. All right, go there. Hello? Who is this? Did you read it yet?
You probably just got clipped.
Did you read it yet? NBC's so cute. Did you read it yet? There is a weapon lolly later on, so
is Tama coming?
There it is. That's what's going to happen. They're going to announce the third season, and a certain weapon is going to be voiced by Tama, and Chris is going to freak out.
It's going to be the greatest show ever.
Freak out. Anyways, no, my whole point is, though, with this is, yeah, I love it. I like the first season a lot. Like I said, I did feel like that last arc was off. Like, it felt off. And then when I started reading the manga, I realized why, and that was because it was just thrown in there. But like I said, Bishamon's story is incredible. The second season is so freaking good, and I love the music, I love the characters, everything about it is super good. So I know a lot of people for the first season, they didn't like Yukine. I hated Yukine too, but it's one of those things where, like, he's a snot. Like, he is an absolute snotty brat. He's a 14-year-old. He's a kid, and so he's a snot. But it does something with it. So it's not like he's just snot always.
To be fair, I am a Yukine apologist.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think he got a raw deal.
Well, he doesn't have daddy issues like Shinji does.
Right?
That kind of helps a little bit. Anyways,
He's not a complete webag.
he gets super pervy though and zaps his boss because he can't help but lusting over Kiki. He likes Hiyori. He gets all horny and gets in the bed with her. But yeah. Anyways, I do like the fact that this does have kind of that subtle ecchi. Like it's not like it's going out of its way, but it's there, and I always appreciate that. It's got subtle ecchi, except for whenever she's taking a bath or she transforms while she's in the bath. Anyways, yeah, that's Noragami. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Odd Taxi. Yes, I loved it. It was a perfect show. I suggest it to anybody. It was super good. I highly suggest going into it completely as blind as possible. Do not look into anything about it. Just go straight, go watch it, because it was super good. And what I always say when I was watching it, the reason why it was so incredible is that it's, again, similar to Bungo Stray Dogs, where every character is fascinating in some way, except for the stupid, the radio guys, the comedian act. I hated them. They were like the only thing I hated about the show. Besides them, the what were they called? They were it's Homo sapiens. The Homo sapiens. I hated them. Other than them, like, all the characters are fascinating. It's like this big, massive city. There's a taxi driver, and all these stories about each of these individuals all kind of somehow intertwine, in a lot of cases, through the fact that he's the taxi driver that will move people around. So a lot of their stories kind of intertwine through him. And just each of their stories was just super cool, and how they're so different from each other. Their conflicts, what they're going through, what they're dealing with, they're all different, but somehow they tie in these incredibly crafty ways. Like the writer behind this is just absolutely pure genius. The other thing I have to point out is do not touch Odd Taxi in the Woods. It is a movie. So if you go somewhere to go watch it and you just see one episode or something like that, stay away from it. This is a god-awful retelling / sequel. The selling point for this was to get this one thing answered from the first original series, and it was a reconstruction of the entire event. What it is basically these characters interviewing people to find out what happened. And it tells the story in the worst way possible, because they're talking to each individual person. They're telling what happened from their perspective. It doesn't work. It works as how it played out in the original one. And what additionally they told you, it is an answer. So you can watch this one, and then just watch the very end of, watch the original series, then watch the very end of In the Woods, and you'll get your answer. That's all you need. But yeah, it's incredible. I loved it. 10 out of 10. Great. Onimai, Chris, we're gonna talk about. I wasn't actually sure if I put it in my 10 out of 10. I had to. There's no way I didn't put it in my 10 out of 10. But I was like looking for it. I'm like, maybe I didn't score it yet. Onimai is perfect. It's a perfect show. Yes, it's ecchi. Yes, it's a little pervy at times, but it's perfect. Like it's absolute perfection. And it's one of those ones where when I go and look at the manga, I was like, holy crap, they took this and made it something. Like Studio Bind took this and made it something special. Because I really feel like when I was reading the manga, it felt very skip-based. And with the anime adaptation, it felt like a cohesive and flowing story. And yeah, like I mentioned when I was doing my coverage of the series, at some point they just skipped an onsen bathhouse. And I was like, well, that's weird. They even mentioned in the anime, and the next episode they're not doing it. So I'm like, are they skipping it? They put it at the end, and it worked so freaking good. I'm like, damn it. You guys moved this stuff around, and it worked. Like it nailed the thing that I was really curious if they would ever actually address. There is an aspect. For those who don't know, it's about a guy who wakes up one morning, he's a girl. His sister is a mad scientist, and she created a drug that would switch him into a girl. And it's literally the sister trying to pull him out of being a NEET and show him like other things. And yes, it happens to be with her turning into a girl. But there's like this whole thing of like him discovering like things about being a girl, meeting friends, and yes, the oddities of being a girl and the things that you have to go through as a girl. And yes, over time, him kind of liking his new friends and liking his new life and liking, yes, these cute things about being a girl, and like, you know, dancing in front of a mirror because he's wearing something cute. and her catching him and all that kind of stuff. It was like, it's a great mixture of incredible animation, just some great animation pieces, a great style to it. A mixture of like wholesome, like this, just the care between the characters, the sister and him. There's this mixture of the great comedy in there as well, great timing, great pacing, all that stuff kind of wrapped up together. And yeah, even getting to some moments where it feels kind of uncomfortable, like uncomfortable truths in there as well. But like I always coin the idea that Bind is a studio of uncomfortable truths. This idea of dealing with something that's uncomfortable. Like they go to the theater and he's not used to having to, how to hold his liquids like, he used to be able to. And so he kind of has an accident. And this other girl comes in there and kind of just helps him out, cleans him up, and hides everything from everybody else. And it's like, it's such kind of like you can see it as kind of being a fetish thing or something like that. But I'm like, I watched it. I'm like, that was like this chick's big sis material right here. Kaoru is big sis material right here. I love her to death. So I love the characters. Or Kaede. I love the characters so much. And yeah, I think Mihari is just best girl. So, what do you think? Oh, she's licking. Cleaning herself.
I can agree to pretty much a 99%.
But
it does a fantastic job of catching those really great wholesome moments. It does do a fantastic job of capturing the what would it take to get a person out of the darkness and bring them into a new life. You don't necessarily have to accept your life for what it is. Every time you get up, you can make a new beginning. You don't have to be stuck in the past. And I think that that's what this show really does. It also tries to capture the essence of how does a person reach out to somebody that they look up to? How do they bring that person out of the darkness, whatever darkness that has captured them? And I think that they pulled that off with Mihari. She looked up to her brother so much, and then when he went into his darkness, she didn't know how to kind of reach out to him, how to bring him out of that, and so she tried something really off the wall. So the two of those main characters, it just really does capture that interplay really fantastically, and I did really love this show.
It's like, I love when like the first episode come out and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this stupid sister, she drugged him. Why are people okay with this show? She drugged him. Like, okay, I think we're a little too far there. Okay, chill. We need a reason to make him a girl. Okay, that's all we care about. We're going long. We're almost already to 2 hours already. Very quickly, yes, Oshinoko, that's coming back. That's really super incredible. I love it. Perfect Blue. That's a Satoshi Kon classic right there. I think everybody should watch. Princess Mononoke I was talking about earlier with Spirit Away.
That one would be probably one of my other favorite.
Oh, because wolves.
Yeah, because wolves.
But there's no Tama in it.
There is no Tama.
There's no Tama.
And this is a huge knock against the show.
Huge knock against the show. Ranking of Kings was incredible.
Brilliant show.
Loved it.
Absolute fantastic character
Super
study.
good.
Every character in some way, shape, or form is dug into until you understand them in some way, shape, or form, and you will probably like them in the end.
That's the one I should have said when I was wondering what your favorite show of all time was.
What's that?
Wolf Children. I forgot about Wolf Children.
That is one of my favorites as well.
Definitely can't because of wolves.
Definitely not because it's wolves. No, it is. I think that it has the family vibes in spades. It is character study in the perspective of family, not necessarily broken home, but pretty much a broken home. So yeah, absolutely fantastic, very touching story. Yeah, very much one of my favorites.
Eccentric family. That's so good. Another PA Works one that I just absolutely adored. Another one that I watched the first time and hated it, and then I watched it again and I really loved it because I changed my perspective on it. The Foolish Chinukis, as I say. Yuzuki Family's Four Sons was criminally underwatched, it felt like, when that season came out. Wonder Egg Priority, yes, I acknowledge I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, but I don't acknowledge that ending exists. The rest of the show was incredible. Especially that backstory was super twisted. It was so twisted. Anyways, yeah. Place for the Universe was really good too. Now we're finally getting the 9s. Why is it? I put Akira as 9 because I fully acknowledge that the ending kind of originaled.
How the hell is Ascendance of the Bookworm down in the 9s? You suck.
What?
Your Bookworm is down in the 9s.
So that's 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's incredible. That's an incredibly high score.
I'm disappointed in you.
It's
I shun you
not
as my brother.
Perfection.
I shun
It's
you as my
fine.
brother.
It can have
I have
flaws.
shunned Andrew as my brother.
It can have flaws.
I don't care if I'm a voice bank or not. I double my firing power on him.
Akebi Sailor Uniform was super
Yes.
good too.
That could be, but you have it in the 9s. I don't understand this.
Well, then go make your.
You have 86.
Make
You
your own-
have 86 in your 10s, and you have.
I don't want to hear anything about ratings from somebody that doesn't even rate things because they want to not be held accountable. It's
This is
easy.
why. This is why
It's
I don't.
easy.
This is exactly why I don't rate anything.
Exactly. Andrew used the full spectrum, so 9 is actually really, really good. Yeah, Babylon was super good too. I at least showed Chris the best scene in that show. I had to show him that scene from Babylon. That crazy chick. Yeah, Berserk, Clannad again, Call of the Night. That's getting another season. I'm super happy about that. Claymore's super good. Code Geass, obviously.
There's your Death Parade.
Cyberpunk. Yeah, I put. I kind of figured.
Cyberpunk's in 9.
Yeah.
Jeez, Andrew.
The ending sucks, Chris. The later part sucks.
This is true.
Like, it gets to
The
some...
ending really, really, really sucks.
There's, like, some point where they just won't talk to each other, and it's like, what the hell are we doing with this story? The first part was super good, though.
You know, Matsuri is in the 9s?
Flying Witch, holy crap.
Oh my gosh, Andrew.
Yeah, these are all, like, 9 out of 10s. They're incredible. That's why they're all up here, Chris. I don't want to put them any lower. Like, you want me to put that down at, like, what, 2?
No, I want it to be a 10.
No, not everything can be a 10, Chris. I'm sorry. Kageki Shoujo's super good. Interview with Monster Girls. That needs another season, dude. That's so badly another season. There's another one. Studios. That needs another season. Very few shows that needs another season. Anyways, yeah, these are all good. Iron Blooded Orphans is super good as well. Mitsubishi Colors, super good. What else? Mushishi. Incredible.
Now this
Natsume's Book of Friends, incredible.
Mushishi is honestly one of my 10s. I
If
think
you ever
it's
had a list.
brilliant. If I had a list, which I obviously don't, I would definitely put it in the top of the list. I think it is absolutely an atmospheric show. It has a lot of lore going into the background, but first and foremost, it is a character study, but not of the main character. It is a character study per episode, different characters. It is dealing with kind of the supernatural. It's
I always explain it as the story is about a place has a problem or a person has a problem. He presents the resolution, but he doesn't force it upon them, and so they have to make the decision.
Exactly, and in doing that, it is forcing a character study moment that is delves into almost helping you in your psyche of dealing with, like I said, when we were talking about Ghost in the Shell, makes you question things, and I think Mushishi does that, presenting it a story, kind of gives you an idea of these are the moral grays of this situation. Now, how do you feel about it? And I think it does that in spades, and I think it's a fantastic story, and I would easily put it on my tops.
Serial Experiments Lane. That's one of those the series where it's like, I'm so glad I watched it when I did, because I know it. I just have a feeling it wouldn't work these days. And they've kind of admitted that in the idea of actually making more of the properties. Obviously, the main writers passed away, but there's this element of like it was ahead of its time, and I don't think that it it still technically works to an extent because it still is this idea of, but it's sort of a concept that has elements within it that has been at this point beat to death. Like, so many movies and stories have come out since then that have been about the idea of the net and being stuck in the virtual world and your consciousness and whatnot being in that world. And I just don't think it'd work anymore now, but it's still one of those series where, like, I'm so glad I watched it when I did, when it was at its release, and literally changed so much what I thought about like the net and science fiction storytelling, psychological science fiction storytelling. Is super good. Vanitas, that needs another season 2. Super good. There's so many up here that are really good. Paranoid Agent, another Satoshi Kon classic. Tsurune, the linking shot was super good. We had a question the other day when our mailbag that was asking sound design, and then somebody immediately, I think it was Sobel, like came up and said, hello, Tsurune. I was like, oh, that's right. I knew there was a show recently I watched where I'm like, the sound, so good. Like, the sound design was so freaking good. But that's KyoAni, dude. It's totally Violet Evergarden.
I would have put Ushio and Tora as one of my tops.
Tora. Yeah. Super good. Such a good remake. Yeah, Yuki as a Hero, the first season was super good. The rest of it, that later season was like,
Armitage the Third is one of my tops.
Yeah, Armitage the Third is super good. Surprised I haven't run into Battle Angel yet. I'm not sure where that one's at. Beck was super good. Big Wind Up, one of my favorite sports shows of all time. Super good.
You're getting down in the 8s.
They're still all... Yeah, the 8s are even incredible. Like, Chobits, Chris apparently doesn't like because
Chobits
he doesn't make a list.
One of my favorites. That is true.
Castletown Dandelion, super good.
Supon.
Do It Yourself was super good. Dino Coil, Eat of the East, Da series is fantastic. Anyways, I think that's enough. We've given people a lot of shows to watch, so hopefully you guys like digesting this, and hopefully we filled your watch list. Every now and then somebody says, thank you so much for telling me about this show because I really love it. And I'm like, I'm glad I've added to your list. You could suffer with me with too many shows to watch. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. If you did, if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button before you leave a comment. But yeah, if you're on other platforms, make sure to give us a rating. We appreciate your guys' support. Again, at otakuspirit.com. You can go there for all of our links for ways to support us, like Patreon, tips, links, super links, all that stuff. Anyways, until next time, y'all take care.
Os.